moving on to the next game that DraftKings has a line on, Jordan, none other than the Florida State game. Back in 2023, this was an epic game. It was a dueling battle. Tough break for us in the end to lose that game. Really tough. Hard to see how we kind of let that game slip away from us. I felt like we were in control for a good portion of that game, and we just kind of let it slip away. We stopped pressuring the quarterback. We stopped doing things that were working on defense, and FSU clawed their way back in and eventually won that game. But the whole storyline is completely flipped on its head this season. Everybody knows DJ Uiagalelei has transferred to Florida State. That's going to be the talk all the way heading up to this game. It's going to be DJ versus Clemson. Obviously, everybody knows how it worked out at Clemson for DJ. He transfers to Oregon State for a season. Now he is transferred to FSU. Obviously, this is going to be a big game. This is going to be a game that has real implications on who plays in the ACC championship. Obviously, it did last season as well. FSU got the best of us there, and we dropped a few other ACC games. But this is going to, be a big deal when it comes to seeding in the ACC and who's there playing in Charlotte come the end of the season. It's going to be a really big game. I trust our defense. FSU is, I think, a little light at the receiver position. I think they've definitely downgraded from where they were last season. And no disrespect to DJ, but I think they downgraded at the quarterback position as well. And that doesn't bode well against a defense as good as Clemson, as I expect Clemson's to be in 2024. With all that said, we are not favored in this game. It's Clemson +4. Now, game does take place in Tallahassee. I'm sure that factors into it. What's your thoughts on the +4 spread for the FSU game this year in Tallahassee?
Yeah, I think as it sits right now, I think a lot of it is, it's a lot of respect for Florida State, as they're defending ACC champions.
As we should, yep.
Went 13-0, and through at least through the ACC championship game. But yeah, I do think that roster has some questions. I think Mike Norvell has done a good job there, and obviously they're from when he got there, they're in a massively different spot from a talent, depth perspective, just all of that. And I think the high school recruiting probably still needs to has left a little bit to be desired, but they're starting to get that right. But I still have questions about that team, beyond just DJ Uiagalelei. But I think are they going to be quite as dynamic at receiver? I think they have some guys. How do they look on the defensive side of the ball? I think they have some really good talented pieces, but got to see it. You got to see it again. They had a really good defense last year. Was that kind of a one-time thing? They hit on some really good transfers, and then now it's just kind of they're going to maybe regress back, or are they going to continue to stockpile talent defensively and put together really good defenses? So we'll kind of see how it goes, but I think that's about right. And I think it kind of, if you adjust for home field advantage, Florida State is closer. It would be like a 1-point favorite on a neutral field. So it's more like a pick 'em as far as how these teams are viewed right now. And it reflects in the ACC championship odds too, because I think at one point they were co-favorites. I think recently Florida State jumped to like +280 and Clemson's like +300. So they're kind of right there with each other as far as how the betting market views these teams right now. So it kind of makes sense why they're like a field goal plus favorite. So, but as it sits right now, I would have that line a little bit closer, to be honest. But that could just be me being a homer.
Yeah, 100%. It could be, but I kind of mentioned my factors and what I think is going to play into the game, at least as it sits right now. I would honestly take Clemson in the game, but I wouldn't mind, plus +1 or +2.5 I think that's more probably where it should be right now. But again, FSU, you mentioned it, defending ACC champions. Obviously, you got to give them the respect that they deserve. Although they did lose a lot off of that team, they did pick up, some good pieces in the portal. So we'll see how those pieces match up and they fit in. But yeah, I think it's an interesting line. It's obviously going to be a huge storyline going into that week. We're probably going to be sick of talking about the whole DJ Uiagalelei thing. No disrespect to him, just like getting tired of the whole thing. But it's going to be a fun game, and it's going to be in Tallahassee, and we know that's a crazy environment down there. So Clemson's going to have their work cut out for them, but I think they're going to be up for the challenge